Hi, I'm really excited for this one. I'm pulling up one of my favorite pieces by one of my favorite artists, definitely one of my heroes and inspirations, and one of the reasons that I fell down this rabbit hole of magic and art and all that stuff. So we're going to go over Melancholia 1 by Albrecht Dürer. This piece is loaded with symbolism, but also hidden mathematics and hidden you'll see. So let's just dive right in. This is the piece as it is. This is in 1514, and Albrecht Dürer has his signature little monogram hiding in the bottom right corner. And the first thing I'm going to do, you have probably seen this everywhere, and I'm sure you know a little bit about it, but this is the golden ratio and the golden spiral. There's an amazing video from old school Looney Tunes that is on my Patreon for free. It's just on YouTube, but it's there if you want to find it easily. It is a beautiful introduction to sacred geometry and the history of it as far as humans have used it and observed it to develop humanity and architecture and arts and everything we know that developed a more evolved human race. So if we take this, this is used by artists as long as humans have been using it, and this is no exception. The Renaissance is also full of this, and this, I think, is one of the reasons that I dove so deeply into this era. I love the demons. I think the demons were the first part, and then the engravings, and then telling a narrative with it, just one image. You can spend hours just looking at the stories that are hidden within this, but in order to look at the stories that are hidden within this, you have to understand the hidden meaning of what is in this image. So let's start. Let's throw the golden spiral in one location and another. We see how they fit in. We see here we have it winding down even to the dog. Dürer uses this similar dog in a few of his other pieces. I have a tattoo of this dog. To me, it means a loyalty and a companion. Its literal meaning is loyalty and companion, and when you look at the hidden meaning, or like the more intuitive meaning of it, it's the companion that will always be by your side. And when you kind of go into this quest to know yourself, you really are all you have. And that's not a bad thing. It's not to sound lonely. It's to say that you are the only thing that will not change. I mean, you will change, but like, things come and go. Everything ends. You are the only thing that you will have for your entire life. So this is kind of like having a companion to go through this journey with. It is you, and it's always by your side. But that's, again, diving into a little bit too much maybe, but we keep laying this out. We have the arc of the halo in the sky, and we also have the building. If we divide it into sections like so, the different quadrants, we have the division of the building, which also fits into the spiral. We'll talk about the magic square later, but that is important. And so as we look at this, there's just a very obvious use of math that I wish was more commonplace in schools, or at least like commonplace knowledge. It is becoming more common now, but I wish I knew this when I was a kid. I would have been using it ever since. So let's keep going with this. If we look at the different angles, we will dive into the symbolism in a little bit, but I'm just going to cover the angles and the measurements for this. And if we look at this strange halo of cloud at the top, it looks like, that exists in nature, especially like, rainbows essentially. But it is kind of peculiar looking. It doesn't look like a typical sky. And you have, the typical water with the typical mountains and the typical city behind it, so why would that odd looking ring be there? But if we take that measurement and line it up to different little important places and landmarks in this piece, we find that this ladder, which is a very important symbol, gives us a clue. It guides us from the bottom left corner to the top right, and it gives us this way to this clear line between the stone down from the cherub to the ball. We have a division and a clear hint that this is a prominent angle, and so if we run that to it, the small circle's edge runs along the ladder and hits the larger circle's edge, which is relevant. And then we have other circles and other things hiding thanks to the compass in the center. The compass is one of the most prominent symbols in Western symbolism, and is important in most of occult teaching. In this case, the angel is doing a craft. They are drawing, and the tiny cherub looks like it has a tiny little chisel with a tablet as well. And the compass is a very relevant tool. The Freemasons see it, and other teachings see it as having the power of the square and the circle, being able to rely on the solid, perfect shape. Being able to make a square and a circle, you can study pretty much the entire universe, because as soon as you're able to make those two measurements reliably, you have areas and ratios and perfect means that are congruent with how nature itself produces. And so if you produce work in the same laws that nature produces its work, it will be strong, it will be striking, and it will be quote unquote harmonious with the world that we exist in. And so that's the compass, that's the square and circle. And if we take that armbar of that very compass and make a circle of it, we have it capturing the tools in the cherub's hand, we have it hitting that ladder, and we have it hitting that ladder, or hitting the same line at the same edge as the other two circles. So it's cool, it's on purpose, it's intentional, it's thought out, and it means something. Speaking of meaning stuff, if we look at the mathematics of the shape, when it comes to carving, masonry, stonework, the very common symbol we see, sometimes we see a jagged rock, sometimes we see a perfectly smooth, polished edge, sometimes a perfect sphere. If you live in the Boston area, if you've been to Mount Auburn Cemetery, this is loaded with obviously with Mason symbolism, but finished stones, unfinished stones, like purposely unfinished stones, and polished spheres. This is a representation of, again, you are all you have. The stone is you, and you may be jagged, you may have your edges, you may have your cracks, you may have your flaws, but step by step, work by work, grain by grain, we can work on ourselves until we are a finished thing. And the goal is to know yourself to the point where you are a finished person, you are actualized. And so, if we look at this, this is an extremely magical rock, which sounds so stupid, but again, if we look to Pythagoras, and if we look to Plato and the mathematics of octaves, if we look at variations of the 3, 6, 9, 12, Tesla says that if you understand 3, 6, 9, you'll understand the universe. This shape right here, I took a protractor myself and I measured all these angles, and they are all multiples of 12. And each side except the top, because the top is a triangle, which area, sum of all the angles of triangle always equals 180. So add up the three angles, it'll always equal 180. And we have these pentagons, and that will always equal 540. So we have 540, 540, 180, and 540. So very intentional. This isn't just like, oh, that's a cool rock, or like, wow, it looks like a diamond. That is a very intentional shape, and it is for those who know the language to pick up on it and be like, look at that. And even if you don't, even if you aren't familiar, even if you would be like 540, what does that mean? It's still a clue that if you see these angles and you see that he took the time to measure these out, it's at least a little light bulb to be like, why would he do that? And that's enough to maybe pique your interest into looking into it. And that right there is a swipe of the stone. It is one step to figuring out a mystery and answering questions. So this is why I get so excited about this stuff. It is truly a language. And speaking of language, let's continue by going to the symbols themselves. So for those of you who hate numbers and hate math, I'm going to do one more math thing and then onto just visual stuff. But this is pretty cool. This is the magic square, and if we look at this, we see that if you add every row, it comes to 34, every column comes to 34, diagonally comes to 34, boxes, so like the top left 4, top right 4, they all equal 34, and if you put them all together, they equal 136. Why are these relevant? The 34 and 136 I will get back to when we're going straight through symbols, but I will point out one more thing. This piece was published in 1514, so Dürer also was able to sneak 15 and 14 at the bottom of this box. So we will come back to those numbers, but I just wanted to point that out for now, and let's go on. So if we look at this, we have a pretty obvious dick. If you are looking at art and you just like, that looks like a dick, chances are it is incredibly prominent to include phallic or vaginal symbols in art, especially when it comes to sacred art, because in all of the teachings, there is a divine feminine, divine masculine, and the goal to balance both in yourself. And so we see this image of the scale, which is generally considered feminine, because of the 2 ovary and the uterus in the middle. Also because it's considered, in general, it's associated with more female figures. So we have the phallic symbol next to the feminine symbol, and right in the middle, we have this intersection that goes through the baby's head and to the guise of the dog. But the kid comes in because with the masculine and the feminine comes the child, which is a recurring theme of father, mother, and child creation and rebirth and ongoing evolution, ongoing incarnation. So right there we have that for the scale. If we go on to where we see that line continue and go to the bell is a symbol of harmony, of frequency, of sound, and sound the same way that I'm pointing out geometry and numbers in geometry. Those numbers are also incredibly relevant when it comes to magic. Again, that video of the Looney Tunes talks about Pythagoras finding the scale and using the golden ratio to find the steps in an octave, the steps in a scale. And so that use of sound and mathematics and harmony is a relevant symbol in the bell. So in this slide, I've highlighted the tools in red. As I mentioned earlier, tools are extremely important for this kind of language of symbolism through art and through the Sukha teachings. Tools and the craft in general are the way of, transmutation. It's the way of taking the unpolished stone or the base metal in alchemy, or the string or the silk for a tapestry or a robe. And these tools are what an initiate or what a craftsman uses in order to create art, to create work, to create. And so I won't go through every single tool here, but I will mention Dürer was a metalsmith who pretty much, as history writes, I'm sure he had plenty of help because he was rich and had helpers and assistants and stuff, but he basically turned woodcutting from a pure craft like, say, stamping letters on a packaging into a really respected art form. Before him, woodcraft was just get it done, get it done, get it done, mass production. And his father was a goldsmith, and a metalsmith was more revered because it was a more expensive quality and it took more skill in order to do what you needed without wasting the metal itself. And Dürer wanted to say that wood is a medium that needed to be respected, and he took that craft and revolutionized it. So the tools are especially important in this piece and to this artist, but the symbols I'm going to focus on. The scale we already went over, and let's talk about the ladder. The ladder is a symbol of steps to elevate yourself. Essentially, it's to steps in the process of going from one place and ending up in a higher, better place. We have the makeshift oven, the cook pot in the back with the hammer, again, crafting and metalsmith. We have the compass, which I did go over, but again is very relevant to point out that for metalsmiths, for architects, for artists, for masons, for a lot of stuff, for a lot of craftsmen, this is the ultimate tool. And along the bottom we have more smithing tools, and yeah, so let's go on to the blue symbols. Here we have the hourglass, which is an extremely relevant and ubiquitous symbol. It is obviously time, but more than time, it is a symbol of eternity, it is a symbol of now, and it is a symbol of where you are in your life. The bag on the bottom that looks like a pretty empty bag of money, I could be mistaken. I couldn't really find significance of whether or not this bag is full of money. It may be, but we did, when we laid the golden spirals over this, there was one spiral that wrapped into that, and so it would obviously, be a different symbol if it was full of money or empty, but it is still a relevant symbol to point out. Here we also have the key hanging at the angel's waist. Key is unlocking doors, finding answers for things, finding access to things that were once unavailable to you. And I said that I was going to come back to 34. 34 and 134 that we talked about in the magic box, the magic squares. We have this plant on the angel's head. What that is a watercress. A watercress plant is associated with Jupiter, and Jupiter is also associated with the number 34. Why is that? When we look at Hebrew characters, every character has a number associated with it, and Jupiter's number comes to be 34. And if you look at this and have the plant symbol of Jupiter and the number symbol of Jupiter, what this ties to is something that is not even visible on this piece, but can be explained as such. Melancholia, on top of being associated with Melancholia itself, it is associated with a teaching that was very relevant in this time of the Renaissance when it came to medicine. It was obviously still pretty primitive compared to what we have now, but it was considered that the human body has 4 humors, or 4 fluids that are necessary to keep balance. It was like blood, bile, there was mucus and one more, but basically it was different, like you had to fill all 4, and if you had too much of one, you would have depletion of another. And a lot of artists and philosophers were considered to be heavy in black bile, and a symptom of the black bile, or like another term for the black bile, was called melancholia. So what that is the angel is in the phase of melancholia, too much black bile, because it is common amongst thinkers and artists and philosophers. So that is actually, on top of that, the association with melancholia, with melancholy, with all of these things is tied to Saturn. So while we have those ties to Jupiter, we have the angel in a position under Saturn. So Saturn is considered a more low planet, I guess. It's more pensive, it's more withdrawn, it's more just a little more down, I guess, than Jupiter, where Jupiter's like bountiful and sunny. So we have the kind of reach to be more closer to Jupiter, but we are in a phase of Saturn. So it gets deep, it gets crazy. So that's what I mean when I talk about what brought me to all of this. Is it's an entire language. This is an entire map to doors that will lead to whatever you want your tools to be in order to learn these teachings. every one of these pieces is a map on how you can find the symbols and the teachings that are most relevant to you. So that's it for now. I'm definitely going to do more of these videos, especially now with all the time we have on our hands. And so keep an eye out, and also keep an eye out for, I will be on my friend's podcast, Ghost Shrimp, aka Dan Band-Aid, aka the leader of the secret society of the Ghost Scouts. And we will actually be talking about this topic. So keep your eyes out, and I'll be posting that soon. If you haven't watched Adventure Time in its entirety, I recommend you do that. You don't have to, but it hides a lot of these tools within it, and it's got a lot of these hints and a lot of these secret little keys that unlock really cool little messages if you can find the symbols and understand what they mean. So yeah, keep your eyes out. Talk to you later. Bye.